Do you remember the licensed movie tie-in video games of the early 2000s? Sure, it was a thing in the 80s too, what with the broadly disliked E.T. on Atari and Ghostbusters for NES and Atari, but those belong to a particular era with its own conventions, and I'm talking about more of the late 90s to 2000s range. The ones that tended to dabble in being more open world and puzzle-oriented. The Charlie and the Chocolate Factory game, the Series of Unfortunate Events game, the Golden Compass game. The games that accompanied each individual film of the now ruined Boy Wizard series. Side note, the fifth one of those on Xbox 360 was easily the best, but I'm not shilling for Joanne, so we're moving on. Games that play with any number of setting-specific mechanics, but tended to have one, if not all, of the following standard video game tropes. Get from here to here without being caught by the dudes.
He's coming back! We need to get out of sight.
Fly or swim through the rings that make you go faster. Secondary character will keep saying this same line unprompted until you do the mission, so stop walking around looking at stuff. Collect some little doodads that don't do anything, or only do something that doesn't matter.
Don't you like secrets? I've got lots to show you, Harry.
Cutscenes that are just clips from the movie, sometimes deleted scenes because the game development team was not in close enough conversation with the film editors as they maybe should have been. All of them cherished, all of them valuable, except flying through the rings. I hated that as a kid. Definitely handed the controller to my parents for the Finding Nemo chase levels, and boy, there were a lot of chase levels in the Finding Nemo game. The reason we were getting these games at the time was because it was relatively easy and financially beneficial to already be a game developer and go, yo, can we license? Can we make a game of your movie, a thing that will make both of us money? It became less of a thing when movies realized how much money these games were making from name recognition and basically went, hey, what if you had to pay us way, way more to do that? And video games were like, oh no, your appetite for our money has outpaced consumers' appetites for our games. Did we mention we haven't been doing a great job making these? The profit incentive is the villain here. Imagine if every licensed game was made with a passionate respect and curiosity for what the change in medium and the heightening of audience participation might do for the story. Imagine the profound art we could get out of the adaptation from screen to different screen if we just allowed literally anyone to adapt anything into a video game. Hi. Greetings and salutations, beautiful humans. This is the Amity Elf, and the video you're about to watch will contain spoilers for Interview with the Vampire. If you haven't seen it, it's a good show. You should see it. There are a lot of content warnings, but it's a good show. Just a quick overview for those who either haven't seen the show and are choosing to watch this video anyway, thank you, or have seen the show and, like me, enjoy hearing people repeat things you already know. Interview with the Vampire, it's not you're gonna want to say but it's the. Interview with the Vampire is a TV series based on the Vampire Chronicles books by Anne Rice. Now, there are going to be some people who wish I just said that it's a TV series based on the book Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice, which is one of the Vampire Chronicles books, but here's the thing. They're doing the Vampire Lestat show now, and they're calling it the Vampire Lestat as if it's a separate show. It's not a separate show. I think it's stupid that they're calling it something else. I think the whole thing should be called Interview with the Vampire. I know that the title Interview with the Vampire is the title of one of the books, but it provides a, in my opinion, better and more interesting framing device for the entire show if we just call the whole thing Interview with the Vampire. I've seen that they, on some platforms, do list the Vampire Lestat as just Interview with the Vampire Season 3, but on their streaming service, they have chosen to list them separately, so it's Interview with the Vampire Seasons 1 and 2, and the Vampire Lestat Season 1. I think that's foolish, I think they shouldn't do that, and I think it's kind of sketchy in a lot of ways that I don't feel like getting into. The point is, I'm calling it all Interview with the Vampire, I'm calling it 3 seasons, I'm not dealing with the title, The Vampire Lestat, because it annoys me. The show follows journalist Daniel Malloy's eponymous interview with century-old vampire Louis de Pointe-du-Lac. Girl, please. Please, I beg. I know, my love, you're doing so good. Century-old vampire Louis de Pointe-du-Lac, who is distractingly pretty in the show. Sir, what do you mean? The conceit of the show is that Daniel first interviewed Louis decades ago as an amateur and chemically intoxicated young writer, and now he's doing so again because Louis wants a do-over, and honestly, Daniel does too. They talk about Louis's human life, how he was bitten by a well-torsoed vampire man named Lestat de Liancourt. I said well-torsoed in the script before I saw the Thirst Tweets video, and in the Thirst Tweets video, Sam Reed makes a little comment.
Sam Reed's little waist has bewitched me body and soul. That's nice.
All that starvation.
goes to something good and positive.
Kind of alluding to the diet culture and what is expected of actors to maintain unrealistic body types. So I just wanted to toss that into the conversation since I mentioned it. Louis' human life, how he was bitten by Lestat, and the decades of marriage in all but name that followed. Louis and Lestat also adopted a dying human girl named Claudia and made her a vampire to be part of their family. There was no graceful way to add that in. My apologies to Claudia for making her sound like an afterthought when that is kind of a lot of her problem. Throughout season 1, the interview is aided along by a seemingly human member of Louis' household staff, Rashid, who is also distractingly pretty, but we later find out that the person we thought was Rashid is actually the vampire Armand, Louis' current boyfriend. Both relationships are and have been toxic, which is a lot of the fun of the show, is watching these characters be so messy and toxic to each other, except when Claudia is involved in any of that, because my goodness, that girl gets a lot of hard knocks. Season 2 of the show culminates in Louis breaking up with Armand and basically just saying hi to Lestat, like, hey, I acknowledge your existence again. And Daniel prying enough to learn all the buried secrets of the participating characters, learning the circumstances of Claudia's death and Lestat's survival, and getting turned into a vampire by Armand. If you want a more complete synopsis of the show, a channel called Olurinati Pop does really fun videos on Interview with the Vampire. But that was just an overview to kind of dip your toes into what the show's about so I can start talking about the video game that I want to exist about the show. Let's get into it.
Just a heads up, guys, I learned a little bit of Blender for this video, so you're about to see some clips of me 3D modeling a few characters and locations from the show. In these clips, I might make some rookie mistakes because, like I said, I learned a little bit of Blender for the video, meaning I downloaded Blender and watched part of 2 Blender tutorials and kind of just jumped into it. The reason you're going to be seeing these clips is because I don't want a single moment to pass in which anyone thinks, even in the back of their mind, that I might have used AI for this video. We care about the environment in this house. I put in the effort, so enjoy.
So as for the visual style, I'm thinking the usual licensed game 3D animated style that we saw in a lot of those aforementioned games from the early 2000s, the Series of Unfortunate Events video game, the Golden Compass game, the same imitation of live action that you would expect there. We could opt for some vaguely stylized elements. For example, the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory video game that I mentioned earlier does a kind of stylistic thing with the characters that's interesting. We can do that, and actually probably should do that, but just as a basis, I'm imagining imitation of real life 3D animation. But nothing hyper realistic that would be super expensive and demanding of people's devices. The level of animation that you would have gotten from a product back then. Now, as for the plot and the mechanics are going to kind of be part of the conversation when we talk about the plot. Like the show, we're going to start in Daniel's apartment. There's not that much interesting to do there, so that part is going to be expressed in 2D artist renditions of Daniel's apartment, the text of Louis' letter, and the narration of the letter from the show. Cut to Louis' apartment, and this time we are seeing 3D models in a 3D environment, and there's like a shortcut scene about Daniel getting settled in. In the show, we pretty much just see the apartment as a framing device around the interview, and the settings in it mostly serving to support the themes of the interview. Like, oh, we're talking a lot about consuming and being consumed, so now we're in the dining room watching Louis eat a bunch of different stuff. Now Louis wants to anchor himself in all the pretenses he's trying to maintain, so we're in the room full of the things that Armand betrayed him with. In the game, though, we're gonna get a little bit sandboxy. We're gonna get to explore. So when we get to Louis' apartment, instead of going pretty much straight to the interview like we do in the show, we get dialogue from Louis and from fake Rashid, basically saying, welcome, thanks for coming, here's your room, you can settle in, and let us know when you're ready to start the interview. This is, to be clear, us playing as Daniel. You can wander every room in the penthouse, you can examine stuff, you can collect stuff. It's not quite an I found the key to this locked door kind of thing. It's more like some items will trigger a memory for Daniel that will enable him to access other stuff or just increase a stat called recovered memory. And some items that you come across, you're gonna show to Armand or Louis and recover some of their memories. Side note, I took copious notes for this video, unlike most of my videos where I kind of write an outline and then talk for the most part extemporaneously. So if you see me heavily reading from a laptop, ignore that, it's fine. Sometimes you show an item to Armand or to Louis and you can recover one of their memories or give you a task or otherwise have a strong reaction. Basically, you get a scene or a mini game or something out of doing that. There's a lot of steps required to get the tape recordings of the 1973 interview. Instead of saying that Daniel just still had it at his apartment, Or, for that matter, saying that Raglan is a thing. We're cutting Raglan entirely, by the way. That character is not going to exist in the game. But instead of doing either of those things, we're going to say that Armand keeps the recording, the original raw recording, in a secret room. You can only access that room if you've unlocked enough of Armand's memories. And once you get into the room, you find the tapes, but nothing to play them on. So you need to do some other puzzle stuff to get a tape recorder to play the tapes. Doing any of that is optional, but it affects the ending. That's right, we get multiple endings in this. Playing the game straightforwardly, meaning skipping all the apartment stuff and just going straight to the interview and playing through the flashback levels, will get you an ending where at the end of the interview, Louis and Armand eat Daniel. It's a bad ending for Daniel, but it's kind of a vibe for Lumond. At any time while exploring the apartment, you can go up to Louis or Armand and either show them one of the items you've found to see whether they'll do something special, or just go, "You have a good eye. That photo was taken by a famous photographer from 1966. Or you can tell them you're ready to start/continue the interview. Starting the interview means you get to play through the flashback scenes, which I will outline in a bit more detail shortly. The flashbacks obviously are also playable, and they're visually the same as the framing device. I thought about saying they would be in 2D or something, but I kinda don't want to. For the most part, you play those as if they were objective recollections, meaning you play it like it's as real as the Dubai scenes. But Daniel will occasionally cut in to question Louis' narration, and I'm thinking of that like a quick time event. You have to succeed at arguing with Louis in order to continue. This doesn't affect the ending because you have to succeed. If you fail, you just have to play it again. Daniel getting through to Louis in these moments is just a part of the story. These will be called follow-ups, which sounds, in hindsight, like a Danganronpa thing, but it's not a Danganronpa thing this time. This is a Danganronpa thing, but this isn't. And so is this. Daniel questioning Louis' narration in general is going to happen automatically as a QuickTime event that you have to pass in order to continue. Optionally, there will also be special versions of these QuickTime events for Daniel to question Louis specifically based on evidence found in the apartment during the Explore segments. Whether or not you found the necessary information, it will be shown to you that there's an unlockable follow-up here, so you'll either have found the information and therefore get to decide whether or not you want to play the follow-up, or you won't have found the information and you'll just know that you missed something in the last Explore section. Maybe you reload a save, maybe not. So, the flashbacks themselves. First flashback is human Louis status quo. Instead of starting the night Lestat first sees Louis, we're gonna start at that one breakfast where he's with Florence and Grace and Paul, his family. This is because we gotta simplify the timeline. It's also because the color palette of the idyllic daytime breakfast will be a bigger change from the Dubai apartment than the color palette of the city late at night. I want the starkness of that change. So, we open up with a short De Pointe du Lac family breakfast cutscene. As far as cinematography, we're kind of far from the table, kind of voyeuristic. We can't see them very well. After the general table conversation, which plays out the same as it did in the show, Louis talks to each relative individually. I think the player is gonna get to be in control of that, so you, the player, are walking up to each of the characters to talk to them, but it's not optional. You can't leave the room until you talk to everyone. These conversations, these one-on-one conversations, are had much closer up, and we now can see Louis clearly, but we still can't see the relatives that well at first. Maybe they're obstructed by scenery somehow, or maybe they're literally just their faces are blurred or pixelated or something like that. We can't see their faces very well. Louis is going to get dialogue options in the conversation, and you have to get those right in order to make the relative clearer and clearer. Basically, you're going to navigate a conversation minigame in order to recover the memory of what his family looks like. Maybe the camera is just showing us Louis over their shoulder, and the first time we get a direct shot of their face is after you successfully pick the right dialogue, or maybe it's a standard shot reverse shot format, but their face is just blurry. Whatever the case, you have to do the right dialogue to see their face properly. Once you do, you get a thing on screen that says, "Memory obtained, Florence de Pointe du Lac, mother of Louis," with a short character description. Memory obtained, Grace de Pointe du Lac, sister of Louis, with a short description. Memory obtained, Paul de Pointe du Lac, brother of Louis, with a short description. Later in the game, maybe it'll be optional to fail these and keep going, but these early ones are definitely mandatory to pass. Kind of tutorial. Alternately, maybe every character's first conversation is a mandatory pass and subsequent ones you can fail and keep going instead of gaining new clarifying information about them. One thing I think would be great is if Claudia is the character who gets the most of these segments and each one only makes her face slightly clearer. Claudia is always kind of blurry, and it's an option to get through the whole game without really seeing her face. That feels thematically poignant to me. Just to keep our game mechanics straight, so far we have regaining memories. This is done in the Dubai apartment by having Daniel explore, find objects, and show them to Louis and Armand. It's done in the flashbacks by choosing the right dialogue options with characters. Maybe that has even more mini-game mechanics than just the dialogue mechanic I've already described. Kind of like in the Golden Compass game where they have lying mini-games where you have to actually do a little puzzle of some kind in order to form a coherent lie. That was cool, by the way. The Golden Compass game made some interesting choices. In the space in between the apartment and the flashbacks, you can also regain memories by using Daniel's optional follow-ups. So maybe in the apartment you found a newspaper clipping about some event, you showed it to Louis and Armand and neither of them really had a big reaction to it, but then later on you're able to present the newspaper clipping Ace Attorney style because Louis was misremembering something. The regained memories can be for Louis, Daniel, or Armand. Louis's recovered memories impact what ending you get. Daniel's recovered memories impact whether you're able to remember what happened in San Francisco, which in turn provides memories for Louis. So you can't 100% Louis' memories without getting Daniel's memories. Armand's regained memories maybe give you power-ups to impact the difficulty of minigames and also affect the dialogue of some scenes. Most of what I just said is dialogue stuff. There is also combat in the game between human Louis and other humans, vampire Louis and other vampires, power-ups like Cloud Gift, which is flying, Mind Gift, which is telepathy, and Fire Gift, self-explanatory, can be used here depending on what character you're playing as. Some scenes you'll be Lestat or Armand and have access to all three. Louis only has Mind and Fire, and Claudia only has Mind. Actually, Mind Gift is going to be for the dialogue sections, and Fire Gift and Cloud Gift are going to be for the combat sections. I'm going to say that some character stats we also have are Brutality and Obsession. Some objects and minigame outcomes, instead of regaining memories, are going to increase or decrease a character's brutality or obsession. Brutality affects the dialogue and maybe also some strength stats for the combat section. For dialogue, it basically unlocks the option for them to say the fun, mean things they like to say.
I'm the vampire Armand and my daddy vampire grew me into a little bitch.
Obsession, for the most part, I think probably won't do anything, but there will be points throughout the game where your ability to access unlockable events is determined by how obsessed the characters are with each other. For example, maybe there's a special bad ending you can get if you max out Armand's obsession where he doesn't just let Louis and Daniel leave him. Maybe he's like, no, actually, you guys are staying. This is a yandere bad end, because this game is made by a person who likes the yandere character archetype. Hi! That was the first flashback scene, the family breakfast. Second flashback scene happens immediately after the first without stopping back at the apartment. This one takes place at night in the city and establishes Louis' career. It will have been alluded to in the dialogue with the family, but this is us for the first time seeing him at work. And side note, I'm not going to refer to Louis' profession in the way they do in the show. In the show, they use terminology that I have been convinced by certain Tumblr users is not accurate to the nature of his job, and in fact, there are racialized elements to him being referred to that way, but I'm not getting into that here. The second flashback scene, like I said, takes place at night in the city. We're with Louis while Louis is doing his regular job. Maybe we're gonna have a combat segment where he fights some guys who are messing with one of his clients or one of his employees, to both serve as a tutorial for the combat segments and to kind of endear the audience to Louis' character before we perhaps move on to the canon scene with Bricktop and the Alderman, in which we're almost certainly less explicit about the body stuff than they were in the show. We do have the altercation with Paul, where Lestat's watching, we kind of have to. That can be a second taste of the combat mechanics. Maybe in this version of events, Paul has antagonized some people who Louis needs to fight off in order to get to him, and then once he gets to Paul, it's just a narrated cutscene. From there, we're gonna go straight to Louis and Lestat meeting with Miss Lily. Another dialogue minigame there, as there's an immediate sort of electric energy between Louis and Lestat. We're probably skipping the card game with Anderson and the Alderman in them. That scene is great for the atmosphere of the show and for introducing those characters, but they're not going to have as much emphasis in the game, and Lestat's mind powers can be covered in the scene with Lily instead. So in the Lily scene, we're going to have that moment establishing Lestat's powers, and that moment where Lestat says, racism is terrible and you should show me around. We're dealing with all of that there. From that scene, we go straight into the narrated montage of Louis and Lestat going places together. This can be a moment where Daniel's early exploration of the Dubai apartment can add some details to the story. There can also be a combat scene added there. Maybe Louis' place of business is under attack and he and Lestat need to defend it. And as if I haven't packed this thing chock full of mechanics, maybe we introduce Louis' interest in photography early on and make photos a sort of collectible that ties into the memory mechanic. Hey guys, real quick, should I get rid of the combat system? It's starting to feel weird that there's a combat system. Maybe I'll actually go the Detroit become human root and relegate all action scenes to QuickTime events instead of having an actual fighting system. And maybe during the game's more sandboxy moments, there can be a mechanic for luring a human away from crowded spaces or the group they're with and drinking their blood. And if anyone sees you, then it becomes a QuickTime event where you have to kill all witnesses or you reach a fail state. Also, I'll say that just drinking their blood is maybe kind of a rhythm game where you have to get enough of the blood before it gets to the point where they are dead and you're drinking dead blood. And just to keep all of that from getting too misanthropic in tone, we're gonna keep the detail where Claudia records all of her victims' last words. Everyone who we kill in the game gets a dedicated cutscene with their last words. Yeah, players will hate it. I'm punishing them for killing someone. Want to see fewer cutscenes? Get better at stealth, Melissa. Or maybe if you raise your brutality stat, you no longer see the cutscenes, but there is some kind of consequence. Maybe higher brutality makes it harder to succeed in mandatory dialogue trees because your options become too blunt or cruel. There are ways to raise and lower your brutality. Ooh, wait, maybe the last words cutscenes are optional, so you can choose to skip them, but skipping them will always raise your brutality. So if you want to lower your brutality or keep it at a certain level, you can watch the last words cutscenes, and if you want to raise your brutality, you just keep skipping those. And also, there are ways to raise and lower your obsession. I'm going to say that playing through optional scenes outside of the main plot, like Louis's family is having a party, will you go? If you say yes and play through that scene, your obsession goes down. You're no longer quite so tunnel vision on Lestat or any particular romance or any particular thing. You have chosen to do something outside of it, so your obsession goes down. You're interacting with other people outside of your toxic vampire relationships. I already said that a high obsession stat will help you unlock certain events, but I will also say that at a certain point, a really high obsession stat will make certain scenes unavailable. You've missed so many of Louis's family gatherings that you're no longer invited to them. Those scenes aren't available to you. You can't opt in. But also, I'm gonna say that a high obsession stat might also impact your dialogue options and make you better with certain characters and worse with others, which isn't to say that through your gameplay choices you can reach an outcome where Louis gets to stay in touch with his family forever, but deciding to maintain those relationships versus not trying at all determines how many memories Louis is able to recover, which determines what kind of ending you get on Daniel's side. So it's less rewriting history so Louis went to the party and more he went to the party. You're determining whether he remembers going to the party and having a good time and getting to have positive human connections as a vampire. If all Louis remembers is, I became a vampire, my family cast me out, I was never able to enjoy the human world again, then why not kill Daniel? He needs to remember still laughing with Grace for a while, still dancing with that European woman who got beheaded, all of it. He needs to remember those things so that killing Daniel seems like a step he doesn't want to take. Returning to the Dubai apartment to explore is going to happen when narratively we reach the end of an episode of the show. So we get through all of episode 1 in narrated cutscenes and playable flashbacks. Then we get to be Daniel again and look for clues and puzzles in the apartment. We can very easily have fetch quests in the game where vampire characters ask human characters to walk in the sunlight and grab something for them. One complicating factor is, can you imagine human Louis being told to fetch something for vampire Lestat? I feel like he'd tell him get it yourself on principle. Plus, human Daniel being asked to fetch something for vampire Louis will probably ask why he doesn't make Rashid do it, and Rashid literally can. So it'll take some contrivance to make it work, or maybe it just means we'll be playing as Armand for any and all fetch quests. It does occur to me though that the second episode scene where Louis walks in the sun and has to make his way back home will definitely be a whole gameplay sequence. Think Little Nightmares hide in the shadows thing. I can't make this a video where I just list every single scene that would appear in this fake video game. Well, I can, but I think public opinion might be starting to shift against super long videos now. Basically, for most of the game, you play as either Louis, Daniel, or Claudia, with a bit of Armand sprinkled in. Maybe Lestat, but I'm starting to think that the fact that Lestat never gets a hand on the ball narrative-wise in Interview with the Vampire means maybe we don't ever play as Lestat. If we ever did, I could see it being during the trial in France in Season 2, but actually I could see the trial being a series of mini-games where all of the previous mechanics and all of the memories you've accumulated over the course of the game have to be used to battle the version of reality posed by the trial, in favor of Louis and Claudia and Madeline, of course, not in favor of Lestat Lestat, because why would we do that? This is going to include Claudia's turning scene and the Lestat fight scene, because it gets on my nerves when people who readily acknowledge that Louis views things with a bias then turn around and act like Lestat's account during the trial, where he's canonically lying a lot, is the absolute truth. What do you mean we finally know the truth because Lestat said so? We know he was twisting information. It's not even his word against Louis, it's his word against Claudia's diaries, which we already knew had very little information about events she didn't see, and were at points misrepresenting the truth on purpose because she knew that her parents were reading her diaries. Everyone's a liar. Louis misremembers and misreports things. Lestat probably misremembers and misreports things. Claudia straight up writes inaccurate information in her diaries after a certain point because she knew her parents were reading them. We have no more reason to trust Lestat's version of events than anyone's. Oh, there's my soapbox. I've been looking for that. Anywho, the Rashid Armand identity reveal that takes place at the end of season 1 will also be a series of minigames comparing different narratives, just like the trial section of season 2. These are basically our major pivotal boss battles. Throughout the game, we get little tastes of the mechanic, and then when Daniel needs to expose that Louis spared Lestat, it becomes a grand, hard version of it. Random detail, but I'm also thinking the first scene of every newly turned vampire will be kind of like a water level. So when Louis turns into a vampire, when Claudia turns into a vampire, when Daniel turns into a vampire, maybe Madeline, who knows, we get one stage where the palette, music, and movement are mechanically and atmospherically different. After the plot of the show has expired, in whichever direction the player's actions have taken it, so whatever ending you end up with regarding Daniel dying, or Lumon splitting up, or Lestat getting together, whatever version of events you have steered things in the direction of, after the plot of seasons 1 and 2 of the show have expired, maybe the game gets more hardcore sandboxy than ever before, and you can just walk around and live as a vampire. And maybe when the game first releases, there isn't all that much you can do in this section, just a few characters with missions for you, and some mini games that enable you to farm money and buy things for no reason. I'm imagining that at this point you're playing as Louis exclusively. Even if Daniel's still alive, you're playing as Louis, so if you want, you can buy furniture for the apartment and change things up. You can buy clothes, you can go and talk to other vampires who maybe want to kill you. You might have to fight them because of the interview that you did. This kind of imitates what it's like to be immortal, especially if you're Louis. You're just here, sometimes you're hungry and you have to eat someone or something, and you just walk around and maybe talk to people and maybe make money and maybe buy things. And then sometime after the game does really well because my idea was really, really good and everyone loved it, at that point we get some DLC to just kind of expand the player's options in that post-story sandbox section. The DLC is called The Great Conversion, like the thing the vampires are doing to turn more humans into vampires. The vampires have started turning a lot of people, so there's more stuff to do, more vampires to deal with, maybe befriend them, maybe fight them. Maybe there can be side quests with the Mayfair witches, since AMC probably wishes that show had taken off. Or maybe it did. Maybe I'm just not operating in the circles where that show is super popular. In the more sandboxy end state of the game, you can level up as a vampire by doing vampire stuff, and once you've reached a certain level, you can turn people into vampires. Imagine if I went full RuneScape from there and you could talk to real people and stuff. I'm not suggesting that, but just imagine. In fact, maybe in that first DLC that I mentioned, instead of continuing to play as Louis, there can be a story event that's like, okay, whatever Louis or Lestat or Daniel or whoever is turning a human into a vampire, you get to customize what that human looks like, and that's you. You're newly a vampire, and you get to play as yourself and be a vampire, and that's the rest of the game. Well, that's all I wrote down, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. Not gonna lie, I kind of want to do more videos like this where I describe how I would make a video game of different properties, whether or not that's plausible. For example, I recently got a comment on one of my videos that was like, I'm so curious what kind of imaginative stuff you would do with Star Kid shows. And I was like, yo, that could be fun. As of recording this, The Vampire Lestat has 4 episodes out, and I have seen 2 of them. I'm behind on the show, and I was never behind on Interview with the Vampire, and here's the thing. I'm happy for people who are having a great time with The Vampire Lestat. For me, I would say that Interview with the Vampire was high art, magnum opus type stuff, and The Vampire Lestat, it's like a Marvel movie. Vampire Lestat is kind of in the standard Marvel movie zone for me. Not a Black Panther or an Eternals. Better than a Thunderbolts though. Easily better than Thunderbolts. I don't like Thunderbolts. I don't know why I'm choosing to make enemies right now. I could just end the video. There's gonna be someone out there who subscribed for the Aragon earrings and then unsubscribed because I don't like Thunderbolts. I'm sorry. If you like Thunderbolts, I'm so happy for you. I'll try not to bring it up again. Anyway, have a great day. Make sure to talk to the people who are in your life and not just the people you know online. Try to share an act of random kindness with someone today. Take care of your body via healthful foods and healthful waters. Boy, I hope I don't have too much headroom again. Comment on this video to let me know what you think of my ideas, and have a great day. This is how much I can open the door for you. Thank you. Okay, you want it back out? And there, why is my cat on the printer? Whatever. That is not that. Hey, no, stop it. Stop it. No. Okay, that's you getting kicked out of the room. Hey, baby, I know. You want attention because I'm recording. There was such a disproportionate amount of thirst tweets for Sam and not for Jacob. And first of all, that doesn't feel representative of the fandom to me. And second of all, even if it was representative of the fandom, I feel like it's up to the people making the video, BuzzFeed, I think. I feel like it's up to them to get an equal amount of thirst for both people because it's rude not to. This isn't a call out, it's just something I didn't like. Oh no. Oh good, I didn't hurt my goose. I love my goose. Girl, make up your mind. My cat wants back in. You coming in? There you are. It's either in or out, baby girl. Yep, that looks cozy. Girl. In or out, girl. I wonder how much of the cat in and out of room stuff I'm keeping in the video. Oh, my legs, my little legs, my poor little human legs.